All right, Jessica, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Shout out to the Instagram gods for bringing us together. I came across your page and I was just drawn to your messaging, what you were talking about. We're both survivors of DV. And anytime I meet someone who's gone through a similar experience, I want to know more about them. So I just want to say thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Such an important topic to have more conversation around. So I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. So, for anyone who's meeting you for the first time, I would love for you to introduce yourself in your own words. Let everyone know who is Jessica Lofton.
Jessica Lofton is a wife, a mother, a caregiver, a CEO, and an advocate for domestic violence awareness. I own a company called Upgrade to Unstoppable. I help women become the CEO of their lives through purpose, transformation, structure, and legacy. I think that it is such an important role, especially women that have been through domestic violence, to really become the CEO of their lives, understanding what that is and how they can become to really reach their next level.
I don't know if you noticed when I sent over the questions, I put the title, How to Become the CEO of Your Life. I love it so much because, yes, we're going to talk about your journey and your story and the dark moments, but what's most important to me and the platform that I'm creating with having guests like you come on is to show what can come from the shit that we've gone through. That you don't need to allow your circumstance to define your whole life, right? And you are the epitome of that. But before we start there, I always have every guest that comes on talk about childhood and adolescence. So I would love for you to take my audience on a journey of bits and pieces of what life looked like for you growing up as baby Jessica.
Jessica, as a little girl, was the complete opposite of what statistically and in books and on paper, what it looks like when they say, oh, this person was a domestic violence victim. This is what they look like. I was complete opposite. I come from the 2-parent home. Dad was in the military. Mom was an interior designer. I'm the youngest of 3 girls. I have a baby brother that is not biologically my brother, but my family took him in at 2 weeks old. Grew up in the church, grew up typical 2-parent home, what it looked like, the middle class family. Moved around a lot. And so my parents were high school sweethearts. And when I got to college, the domestic violence started with a college sweetheart. I didn't know what it looked like to be in the negative side of relationships.
Because that's not what you saw growing up.
Exactly. I knew when they went on a date night that was them having their serious conversations, but me and my sisters never seen what those conversations were. We never seen the struggle. We never seen the negative side of what a lot of kids see. And not to say that that's a blame, but unfortunately that gave me a high level of naiveness. When I got to college, this wet behind the ears girl that's coming from that middle class family, that it was like a big green light for the narcissist to want to take advantage of.
I really love that you share that before we go into what that relationship looked like, because I've interviewed several other survivors of DV as well. And I always ask every guest to talk about their childhood. And it's so interesting to hear how there's so many different dynamics of growing up in a 2-family home. Same for me. My parents were also high school sweethearts, moved from Puerto Rico to the United States. They're still together. They literally just celebrated their 41st wedding anniversary in February. Never saw violence in the home. My dad never called my mom a bitch. My mom never called my dad an asshole. Like nothing that society typically deems that if you came from an abusive home, then obviously you're going to be in that type of relationship. And that's not the case when it comes to domestic violence. Like we know the numbers, 1 in 3 women are going to be a victim of DV in their lifetimes, right? And it doesn't matter your upbringing. It doesn't matter what's in your bank account. It doesn't matter your religion, how old you are, if you're skinny, if you're fat, none of that matters. It can affect anyone. And y'all can listen right here, right now. There's 2 people who grew up in these loving homes that didn't see this type of abuse happening. And yet we found ourselves in these situations. So just to like open up people's eyes to be like, not so judgmental and thinking everything is just one-sided. And if you grew around that, then obviously you're going to be a part of that. No, that's not the case.
I remember being in high school and hearing, girls go through certain things in their relationships. And I was always like, oh, if I ever get into that, then I'm going to
I would be like,
You
oh,
know?
she's fucking dumb. That couldn't be
Exactly.
me.
Oh, I would kick his ass. Like, no, 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 that's not the case. And I mean, it was always a naiveness. It was always a mommy and daddy must have gone through something like this. They just didn't show us. Oh, okay. So this isn't happening in front of everyone. So they must have. It was like a correlation that just was not being made for me. And then at the same time, it was an embarrassment. So I couldn't ask. I couldn't say anything because after the first time it happened, my parents told me to leave.
So you told them the first time that it got abusive?
Well, the first time I didn't have to. So December the 6th, 2002, I had just come back from partying. I went out to another college, me and my friends, and he had gotten upset with me that I went. And so I came back and he was not talking to me, and I was kind of like, well, whatever. And I don't know if you know any Virgo women.
I am a Virgo.
Oh, see? So it's like this, all right, like,
Yep.
cool. I'm a nonchalant, whatever, I'm gonna let you have it. So that's what I was doing. And he hated it. He confronted me in front of my dorm. He like grabbed me. I remember it was a couple of girls walking past and they were like, hey, y'all all right? I was so embarrassed just in that particular moment. And I'm like, yeah, we're just playing around. And he kind of had me like in a chokehold and he walked me to the side of the building and he slammed my head against the brick wall. And then he was talking and smacking me a couple of times. And there were actually some girls standing outside of the dorm next to mine. They seen it. He ran off. I walked to my dorm and I remember calling my best friend at the time. She was at her boyfriend's dorm, but the campus security had like an office at the bottom of his dorm. So she ran down and told the campus security. Once campus security got involved, there was nothing that I could do. So they called my parents and told my parents about it. My dad, I remember him telling me, like, you need to press charges. You need to leave this relationship alone. Let this be it. And of course, oh, he loves me. So he found out where I was at because I didn't stay in my dorm room that night. And he called and he's crying and I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. You are the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Blah, blah, blah. Right? But me, in that naiveness, in that cloud of he loves me, in that cloud of I don't want to hurt him, in the cloud of what did I do to make this happen, in all of the chaos that was going on in my head, to have someone come to me and tell me something against that, against what I really wanted to do, I didn't do it. So I didn't press charges. But literally 7 days later was the next time he beat me. And that was the start over the course of 2 years of me getting beat. Answer the question too quickly, I got beat. I didn't answer my phone, I got beat. If I was talking to anyone too long, there was never a don't do this because this is what's going to trigger him. It was always just my presence. Him wanting to flex his muscle. Him wanting to feel superior, him having a fucked up day. I mean, literally down to I got punched out of a moving vehicle. I had guns placed to my temple. I remember one day we were visiting his sister. She lives like in South Georgia, like in the country. He told me, sitting at her dining room table, if you ever cheat on me, I'll kill you. That's like, but I'm not going to cheat. Like, and that was me listening back to that conversation afterwards. Like, Jessica, what the fuck were you thinking? He said he was going to kill you. You looked at him saying something about cheating, not about the threat. I kind of laughed it off, or it would be, I'll kill you and bury your body and nobody will ever find you. And he's saying this in the midst of other people.
And no one batted an eye. No one was
No,
like,
not at all. It was, man, you're crazy. Quit fucking around. But there was an anger in his eye that I knew no matter what, nothing that I did. I got kicked out of apartments. I was sleeping in a vehicle at one point because I had gotten kicked out of my apartment for us fighting. I remember my best friend got an apartment and she was like, Jessica, just come and stay with me. Went to stay with her for a couple of days. She got kicked out of the apartment, out of her place. I was finding abandoned buildings to sleep in. Now, all of this is happening in my freshman and my sophomore year of college. I'm calling my parents, lying to them for them to send me money, telling them that I needed money for books. So they would send me money so that I can go get a hotel room to take a shower. Like, it was so bad.
So, what was the moment for you when you finally decided this is going to be the last time? Take us on what that looked like.
I had gotten a hotel room and I called my best friend and I'm like, hey, come and stay with me. I don't want to be by myself. So she comes over and I just kept throwing up. And I'm like, what the heck? I can't be sick in all of this. I don't need to be sick right now. And she says, Jessica, are you pregnant? And I was like, no. I remember my mom that day had sent me $200. I went to the CVS and took a pregnancy test. It came back like, yes, but it was like a really light. So I was like, I don't think it's right.
There's something wrong with this test.
I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
She was like, well, do you have enough to buy another one? I literally took all of the money that I had left, minus I think $20, and I bought every pregnancy test that I could buy. And I took every pregnancy test, and every single one of them came back positive. And I'm like, fuck, what am I supposed to do? I can't even take care of myself for real. How am I going to take care of a kid? And at that time, I had gotten to a place where I had to be either high or drunk most of my days, just to kind of numb my reality. I remember like the praying every day. I would pray like, God, please let him stop hitting me. What do I need to do to make him stop? And so sitting in that hotel room, it's like, what do I do? He was working at like this like clothing store. So I wrote on a note that I was pregnant and I dropped it off at his job because I knew he couldn't flip out on me. I knew he can't physically assault me and you're at your job. I think that was probably like the longest time once he found out that I was pregnant that he didn't hit me. Aha. Jessica, you have to get out of this, was the day he beat me and I was 2.5 months pregnant. I remember after sitting in the shower like, okay, if he's willing to beat me with my child, this can't be what I need. This can't be what life is supposed to be like. It was just like I started asking more questions. There has to be more to life than this. I remember just praying like, God, I need you to open up a window somewhere. That next day, now mind you, this time I had stopped coming home to see my parents. Like I was completely isolated from my family. And my mom called me and she says, I know you've been sleeping in a car. I know you've gotten kicked out of your place. I know that you're pregnant. I just want you to come home. That was it. Like it was no big theatrical thing. It was someone that I had not spoken to. This was November that I came home. So I had not spoken to my mom since that August. So for her to run down exactly what I was going through, and she said, I just want you to come home. My dad came and picked me up the next day. I knew it was the right decision when the following week my mom called, because when I came home, my parents were like, okay, well, what do you want to do? This is before the whole abortion being a legal thing. They're like, if that's the route you want to go, we're not going to stop you, but just let us know how you want to do this. And I decided I was going to keep my child. And so my mom's like, okay, well, we need to call his mom and, let them know, like, this is what we're going to do. And his mom, the first question she asked, she's like, well, what happened to the money he gave her for the abortion? There was no money. And so she says, okay, that's fine. Maybe like an hour later, he calls me and he's like, I'm so sorry. I've gotten it figured out. You can come back here and go back to school because in all of this, I'm still trying to go to school. I'm still trying to show up. And I just got to a point where I just told my professors, I have a lot going on and I can't be here. I think they had heard whispers, so they were all understanding. He called and he's like, I got it. You go to school and I'll work and then we can switch with the baby. And at first it was sounding good. And then it was like, you know what? I don't think so. I think I'm just going to stay here. Oh my gosh. You would have thought it was Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. Well, fuck you, bitch. You'll never get anything from me. I won't take care of you or that bastard child. I mean, like complete 180 to what it was when he first called me.
Because you didn't do what he wanted you to do.
Because I did not give in to what he wanted. And I said, okay, because at that time, I had started to get a little bit of Jessica back. I was back around my family. I was back in my space of confidence. And so it was like, okay. And I can honestly tell you, my daughter will be 19 in June. And I can count on one hand how many times she has seen him in her life. Like he could walk past her and she would not know who he is. But my baby is the shit.
Yes, she is. I mean, look at her mom. Look who she has as a
I
mom.
mean, then she has not missed a beat. But yeah, that was a time.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. Just listening to your story, there's so many similarities that I also experienced in my relationship. That's why I really like having these conversations for someone who may be in this type of situation but doesn't really know. What are the signs to look out for? If this sounds familiar, oh my God, maybe I'm in this type of relationship too. Me and you both know that it did not start off that way. Absolutely not. And it doesn't start off like, the first day he puts his hands on you. Absolutely not.
The physical abuse is the cherry on top. The mental abuse, the emotional abuse, the spiritual abuse, the financial abuse, all of that happens way before physical, because the first place they have to break you down is in your mind. If they have your mind, they have everything, because at that point they know that they can manipulate you to do, say, and be anything they want you to be.
1000%. That's a huge, huge red flag that I really want listeners to focus on. Just know that it does not start off like 0 to 100. It's very gradual, especially when you're dealing with a narcissist. Like, it's very calculated. They know what the fuck they're doing. And you said when you were telling your story how he would tell you, oh, I'm so sorry, it's not going to happen again, that forgiveness, all this bullshit, and they say that they're not going to do it again. It's going to happen again. And trust and believe it's going to happen worse every single time.
Every time. Like I said, the first time it was 7 days. 7 days exactly. And he ended up getting kicked out of school for that. The way God works. So he had to go before a committee to see, in the state of Georgia, if you have any type of domestic abuse, you have to go before a committee and they decide whether or not you're able to come back. The student government body, 9 out of 12 of the people were my friends. And so they were like,
he was fucked. He had no chance. Like, get the fuck out of here,
not
sir.
only can you not come back to this school, you can't go to any school in the state of Georgia.
Wow. You want to fuck around, you're going to find out.
Exactly. And he found out. From that, though, after having my daughter, there was never a time that I was able to heal. There was never a time that I was able to just stop for a minute, because I literally went from not only trying to heal my physical wounds in my body, but now I'm growing someone inside of me. And I have to find a way to put my feelings and my emotions, I have to place those to the side, because everything transfers to the child. Now I have to grow this child and birth this child, and now I have to go through postpartum. Now all of this is happening and I'm 19 years old, trying to understand what the hell I just went through in this relationship. I'm trying to deal with postpartum. I'm looking at this kid that knows absolutely nothing in this world except what I show her. I'm trying to finish my degree, work so that I could provide for her. Like, it was so many things. Every day I thought, I want to give up. This is way too much for me. And so I finally went and I got diagnosed as clinically depressed, but I refused to get on medicine, because I seen what medicines do to people. And so it was like, okay, we have to figure this out. And I literally sat on my living room floor with my daughter in her car seat. And I'm talking to her the same way I'm talking to you right now. Like, I don't know what I'm about to do, but I know that I have to take care of you. And I know that I have to show you a better way so that you don't end up in this same situation. And I know that I have to heal. And I know all of these things. I don't know where to start though. I began to journal. Every day it was like, okay, next step, one step in front of the other. Every day it was something new. My goal for today is to enroll back in school. My goal for today is to find a job that can accommodate my school schedule and my work schedule. Okay, now I need to find a job that's going to pay me enough to pay for my bills and pay for daycare. Okay, now I need to make sure that we have food in the house. It's so crazy to look back and see where I came from that moment. I was such in a dark space. And every day it was just one step in front of the other.
So what would be a piece of advice that you would tell to a listener who's in that season of their life right now? They're struggling through whatever trauma, whatever abuse they've gone through, and they know that they want to start their own healing, but they have no idea how to start. What is something that you would tell them?
The first thing is to give yourself grace. This is a journey that will last a lifetime. And I say that because the first time I got abused was December the 6th, 2002, and we're in 2023. And I still see where I have to do additional healing because we're like onions. There are so many different layers. So you have to give yourself grace. Two, I would highly suggest journaling to get your thoughts out of your head. Even if what you're writing does not make sense, you have to get it out. It does not do anything but bottle up. It's almost like shaking a can of Coke and then popping it open and it just bursts. And the third thing that I had to do was create a daily habit, like a routine. I'm a huge advocate on having a morning routine and a night routine. And my day is so much more consistent when I have that. As you grow in getting those routines in order, you'll start to find where you can make changes. And in those changes, you are creating boundaries, creating new healthy habits, finding what's working and what's not working. One thing that I take my clients along the journey in becoming that CEO of your life is having your mission, your vision, and your values. When you're able to define what the mission, the vision, and the values are, just the same way as it is in a business, that is what keeps you on that path, on that track. When you're establishing that morning routine and that night routine, and you know what your mission, your vision, and your values are, everything that you do revolves around that. So you're not giving yourself any space or any room to function outside of those bounds.
And I love that you brought up the word boundaries because I think that is so important. That's been so heavily implemented in my own personal development journey, like setting boundaries and sticking to them. Y'all don't understand how important it is to honor them, right? To know what they are and to not have any wiggle room. So why do you think it's so important for us to set boundaries? And what would you tell someone who's struggling with setting their own boundaries?
Setting boundaries was a form of self-care. I remember growing up and my dad used to be so obsessed with like Animal Planet. And he would always tell me, like, Jessica, look at animals. Animals are self-preservation beings, meaning no matter what happens and no matter what anyone says or anyone does, they think of themselves first. That is how we have to think. That is how we have to be. The importance of boundaries is to make sure that we are showing up in this world as our highest self. I am no good to anyone if I'm showing up half-ass, if I'm showing up stressed out, if I'm showing up completely drained and empty because I've given to everyone else. So in 2023, Jessica is now married with children and the business and life is thriving, right? But my family is so clear and they know mommy has her time. Wife, I have my time because if I'm not full, I cannot give to anyone.
Absolutely. You can't pour from an empty cup at all.
Exactly. And so that is the importance of having those boundaries to make sure that you're able to fully show up as who you've been called to be. You can't serve your purpose if it's not coming from a place of positive energy, if it's not coming from a place of fullness. Anyone that's struggling to create or set boundaries, I would challenge them to ask. I had to start asking myself questions. If the roles were flipped, would this person give me the same thing that they're asking of me? No? Okay, so why am I?
You got to ask those uncomfortable questions, right?
Yeah, the uncomfortable questions, have the uncomfortable conversations, and be okay. They'll be okay if you say no. They may be upset, but what are they going to do? They're either going to figure it out or they're going to wait until you're ready. So I will say it's a challenge. It is definitely easier said than done. It is something
It's a practice.
You have to work on, but you have to be very clear because if you allow gray area in your boundaries, you'll always end up getting taken advantage of.
Yes. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I actually experienced this the other day when we were talking about it in Instagram, the DMs. You know, I have this set boundary, and while you can be empathetic to people's situations and things, this is my standard. And when before in the past, when I allowed that standard to be fucked with, was fucked with. You understand what I'm saying? And now being the woman that I am today with all the shit that I've gone through, it's a hard no for me. And I'm not going to apologize for that too.
No is a complete statement.
Period.
And once you get to that place, it is such a freeing, because now I look at things and situations and make decisions. Does it support my mission, my vision, and my values? No. Is it outside of my boundaries? Yes. I'm sorry, I'm good. I will say this, when you master it, the level of peace that you have, the level of joy that you have is undeniable. And you will then begin to do any and everything to protect it.
And it comes from those situations, those really dark moments that we go through to get to this place. It's very cliche, but it's so true that this healing personal development journey is not linear. It's never ending. I never ever feel like anyone is ever fully healed because there's always new levels, but you definitely can be in the driver's seat of your life and create this new narrative, but you got to make that shit happen. No one else can do that for you.
Absolutely. I was actually just having a conversation about this not too long ago, and being the difference of a handout and a hand up. Those that are ready to heal and ready to elevate and ready to reach that next level, you're looking for that hand up, because you understand that it's going to take work, and it's going to take work, and you're going to cry. You're going to feel lonely sometimes. You're going to have to leave a lot of people. But when you understand that the assignment that is on your life is bigger than you become okay with that. Everybody can't go with you. Those that are looking for the hand out just want you to do it for them. They want the solution without the work.
Mm-hmm. And that's never sustainable, ever. I already knew this conversation was going to be full of so many gems. I definitely feel like God is in the room right now leading this conversation. So thank you so much for all the gems that you're dropping. But I want to get some more out of you before we finish up. So, while everything sounds beautiful right now, I'm sure you have your moments of challenge. You have your sad girl days. You're human. We all go through that. How do you navigate those sad girl days, those negative moments that come up? And what would be some advice you would share with a listener who's having their own sad girl day?
I allow it to happen. I'm human just like anyone else. So just on the same days as I'm happy, on the days that I feel empowered, on the days that I feel confident, I have days where I'm not confident and I feel worthless. And I feel on certain days, like especially when I remember certain things that happened and I remember the exact date that it happens, I'm like triggered and agitated, and I allow myself to feel whatever it is that I feel, but I don't allow myself to stay there. One of the things that I've created was template for myself. There are things that I'll do. I know that working out, it helps me to clear my head. I work out Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday if I skip a day during the week. That is just something to keep me moving, to keep my brain free of stress and chaos, right? I also have things like there's one day, even as a CEO, I call it my self-care day. I'm not opening up my laptop. I'm going to do what I need to do for me. Some days that looks like going to lunch by myself or going to get a pedicure in the middle of the week, go get a massage. Some days it looks like me laying in the bed all day because I don't feel like doing anything. And that's what I do. It's okay to have those days. It's not okay to allow yourself to stay there. It's not okay to allow those things to keep living in your head rent free. That is the importance of the journaling, so that you are getting all of that out and you don't have to worry about overthinking something or worried about what's happening or what's not going to happen. Get it out. Then you're able to either look at it and come up with a concrete plan to make things happen. Or I've had days where I'll journal my thoughts as random as they are, tear it up and burn it.
That is so powerful. I love me a good tear up and burn. I did that at the end of 2022. Me and my daughter, we had this ceremony where we wrote letters of forgiveness to the men in our lives who hurt us. And one of them was my abusive ex, and ended up being like 6 pages long. And I just got all of those feelings out that were just ruminating in my mind. As a Virgo, we overthink thinking.
That's a daily thing, right?
Yes, yes. So journaling is so powerful. I actually started working with a life coach and she had me do an exercise last week to just journal specific things. And again, that turned into like 4.5 pages of just getting shit out. And I'm just like, wow. There's a lot of shit that's in here. And to get it out, it's like a release. It's like an emotional dump that we need to take.
It truly is. Absolutely. And so what I do, I actually do it quarterly now. I started out just doing it whenever I felt. Then it became like okay, at the end of every year. And now it's like so much has happened. And I do it quarterly now for me because July of last year, when I said I'm a caregiver, I take care of my mom. My parents were married for 45 years. In July of last year, my dad ascended. And so my mom is disabled. She's fully disabled. And so now I take care of her. But it's been so much. It's already a lot being the wife, being the mom, being the CEO, and now to add full-time caregiver, it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of things that go on in that already overanalyzing, overthinking Virgo brain. And so the tear up, and you know what's very interesting, and I'll say this, how many times, how many different ways I have to forgive my abuser. As I grow, I'm learning new things about me. I'm learning how I deal with certain people, how I'm triggered by certain things. And so I have to get to the root of all of it and even still have to forgive him for things 20 years ago.
Like I said before, y'all, it's a never-ending journey. Doing this work, it can be so healing, but know that there will be those days where you are struggling and it's okay. Like you said before, give yourself grace and space and not allow yourself to stay there. I say that shit all the time on my podcast, y'all. So you see, it's not only just me saying it.
For sure.
Yeah. So being who you are, everything that you've gone through and you've experienced from the abuse and just everything in general, what would you say is the number one thing you've learned about who you are?
I am a strong ass queen. That has been what I've learned. Redefining who I am has given me so much confidence as a woman, as the mom, as the wife. There's nothing that can happen in this world that I cannot handle. That's what I've learned over the last 20 years. I can handle anything and do it with a smile, with my crown still on my head at the end of it.
Yes, queen. I love that so much. I love that energy. You know, just being able to have that growth mindset, it definitely comes with the journey, right? But I love that. I'm curious. You said you're a Virgo. Are you August or September? When's your birthday?
August 31st.
Oh, okay. I love it. I'm September 21st.
Oh,
I love it.
yeah. We'll have like a clusterfuck in my house. Like, I'm a Virgo, husband's an Aquarius. I have a daughter Gemini and a son Gemini
Oh my goodness.
and a son Libra.
Wow. That is a clusterfuck. How do you do it, sis? I don't know.
Lord,
One day at a
every
time,
day is
right?
new.
Right. All right. So you're on the Watch Us Thrive podcast. So tell me, what is your definition of thriving?
Thriving is truly being unstoppable, not allowing circumstances, people, situations to shake you. Thriving is choosing joy, choosing yourself, choosing love over everything. At the end of the day, hell or high water, I'm walking in every room thriving because I know that no one can touch me.
Let the church say amen, y'all. I love that definition so much. Just, really knowing who the fuck you are and being unapologetic as fuck about it. So being the queen that you are today, if you had the opportunity to say one thing to your abuser, what would you tell him?
Fuck you.
Yeah. I love that. Same.
I'm here. I am here this many years later, still saying, fuck you. You tried to break me. You tried to stop me. You tried so many things to make me feel less than who I am, who I was created to be. And now I am that bitch.
Yes. Yes. That is the best revenge, right? Like, you did not break me.
Like, I see where your life is. And I know where mine is.
Okay.
Nothing to do with materialistic anything. It has everything to do with I am unstoppable. Hence the name, upgrade to unstoppable. That is exactly exactly what I did.
I love that so much. And I love that you started off with fuck you because that's how I feel too. Okay. It's great to have these beautiful, like very thought provoking answers. But at the end of the day, it's like fuck you the long way. Okay. I hope you're suffering.
Take a long walk off a short cliff, being
Okay.
wall. Sure.
I love it so much. Okay. Two more questions. Go back to your childhood self, whatever age pops up for you. Being the woman that you are today, what is one piece of advice you would tell her?
It gets better. Never lose your crown, and you are everything that you know you are right now. I think oftentimes, just with life as it happens, we see ourselves as something like kids have such an imagination. You don't think about how you're going to get somewhere. You know, when you ask kids, what do you want to be? I want to be the president of the United States. I want to be a superhero. I want to be a lawyer. You don't think, how am I going to pay for school to get that done? How am I going to do this? Or how is it going to happen? You just know who and what you want to be. And life has a way of chipping at that. And you begin to doubt yourself and you begin to forget who you are. You begin to forget the dream that was placed inside of you as a kid. So if I could say anything to her, keep going. Are that girl.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. You are that bitch queen, okay? I love that. I love that. Okay, final question. In the far future, when you're no longer on this living earth, someone needs to sit down and write about Jessica. What do you want them to say about you?
She was unapologetically an advocate for women and those that have experienced trauma to really step out and be who they were called to be, to take up space without regard to the thoughts or opinions of anyone else and do the damn thing. She loved it. She pushed for any and every woman on this earth to be able to be the queens that they were created to be.
And you are doing a damn good job at it, sis. I be seeing you. I love when you go live because anytime you jump on there, I know she's about to preach a good word. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing, especially for us survivors. Like we need to hear more of these stories of being able to change the narrative of your life. And I just appreciate you so much for sharing just a little bit. I know this is just like the tip of the iceberg for you. And I know people are going to want to know and possibly work with you. So please let us know how we can follow you, any projects that you're working on. How can we work with you as a coach?
You can find me on IG, on Facebook, on TikTok while it's still available under Jessica P. Lofton. And right now there are a couple of different projects. One that I'm so excited about that I'm launching. We are doing our first healing retreat. I want to take women for a weekend getaway, and it's going to be full of loving on yourself. It's going to be full of luxury. It's going to be full of rest. It's also going to be full of resourcefulness. So we're helping the woman that has experienced domestic violence and helping her map out what her framework looks like to get to the next level. Whether you want to start a new business, whether you want to elevate in your current career, whatever it looks like, we want to help you create the framework to get that done. Also, just coaching and VIP days are what I offer, just depending on where you are on your personal development journey and how much help you need. You can also just look at my website, upgradetounstoppable.com, and I am out here.
I love it so much. We're going to link everything in the show notes. Once again, thank you so much for being a voice for the voiceless and for letting us know that there's so much more out there for you and you have the power to make that happen. And you are the epitome of the type of woman who has turned your pain into your power. And I just can't wait to continue watching your journey. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you.